Well, here we are, Bonnie.
All right, Dan.
And welcome, all you good friends. So glad to see you here today on what I think is going to be one of the most exciting Weniger events of our history. This is number 51.
I missed the first one somehow. Tonight, Dan, we honor 4 members of our Adventist community for their accomplishments and contributions to society, for the testimony made by their lives, and their pursuit of excellence.
You know, Bonnie, it was Charles Weniger's expectations for excellence from himself, his students, that made Dr. Weniger such an inspiring figure at the SDA Seminary in Tacoma Park, Maryland, where he was the dean back in those days. I know because I was one of Dr. Weniger's students in 1956, 57, 58.
Very good. Well, the inspirational nature of excellence always comes alive for me during the Olympics. This year's Olympic television broadcasts end with a beautiful shot of Duomo di Milano, the Gothic cathedral in the center of Milan that was built over 6 centuries ago. It was featured in a video during the opening ceremonies with close-ups of hand-carved details juxtaposed with athletes training for their sports. But what inspires me about that cathedral is the way it has brought together the artwork of people over time. It is a testimony of a community, and I think this ability of excellence to bring us together as a community is worth celebrating.
I would say amen to that, and that leads us to our opening prayer. Father God, you know who we are, where we are, and why we are here. And just pausing a second lets us be remembered of our dear, dear Dr. Weniger. Thank you for the inspiration that you instilled in his life and through him to students who had vision to extend his excellence to succeeding generations. We have the privilege this afternoon of acknowledging how, in fact, dear God, you have fulfilled that promise to instill by your Spirit in your succeeding generation of sons and daughters what you intend as a representation of yourself in this world. So thank you that we all who are here this afternoon can be here, and we thank you for your blessing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Our Weniger Society has exciting news to share tonight. Recently, an anonymous donor who was impressed by the people that we honor each year came to us and volunteered to make a $10,000 donation for each awardee to the charity of their choice. And the offer was made not just for our awardees this year, but for all of them dating back to 2022.
And your fast math, if you read the list of those who have been awardees in the program, your fast math will tell you that is $250,000. And we say that is pretty exciting. As board members, of course, this gift was enthusiastically approved.
Many of the previous awardees and representatives from the organizations they have gifted are with us tonight, and we'd like to invite them to stand now and be recognized as the details of their gifts appear on the screen. And we also want to thank the VersaCare Foundation that worked with the donor and with our organization to make all these gifts happen. They've done a lot of the paperwork and the tax work that goes along with it. And so I think VersaCare is also here this evening. And so we invite all of you previous awardees and those organizations that have been gifted to stand. And I think we have a list ready to roll. And we'll tell you about it as
I think, Bonnie, we might ask among us, any of you who have been recognized in 2022, 23, 24, and last year, 25, if you're here, please stand.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. I am sorry for the confusion with the AV. We have the list of the awardees and these organizations ready to also show you at the reception, and I think I've confused things for the poor AV people, and so my apologies for that.
Just by way of follow-up a bit, Bonnie, let's explain to them some of the organizations that are going to benefit from
let's do that.
These gifts. For example, scholarships are going to Academy students in Boston and in places in the Oregon Territory. Right here in Redlands, we've got Redlands Academy, and then Loma Linda, the university, as well as the academy. We have college scholarships going to La Sierra University, Washington Adventist Honors College, and graduate level scholarships are going to PhD candidates at the Adventist Institute for Advanced Studies in the Philippines. So, from among the 25 Weniger awardees from past years and present, all of these educational institutions are going to be significantly blessed.
There are projects for local food banks, for assistance to homeless women and teenagers. There are international projects, including for assistance for farmers in Africa, public health in Sudan, for migrants in Mexico, for orphans in Zimbabwe. And there's support for historical research. I was glad to see Kevin Burton from the Adventist Research Center at Andrews is here, for art and music programs, for the Adventist Society for Religious Studies, for the Association of Adventist Women, and a peer support program for employees at Loma Linda University Health.
Bonnie, my memory of Dr. Weniger has to declare to our assembly this afternoon that he would be, I almost hesitate to use the word, but he would be charmed and also very proud to see that there could be an extension of his leadership, his educational provision to this denomination and to so many of us. And he would, well, he would be overwhelmed emotionally to learn about this
You think
today.
so? Yeah. Well, again, we invite you to the reception following to meet the laureates and the representatives of these organizations, and we'll have more information about it there. And so
Yes,
we invite you to stick by for the reception.
This is an exciting new dimension of the Weniger Foundation for Excellence.
Well, and there's more gifts to share because scholarships have become a big part of the Weniger program. I love seeing the students selected by the universities here in North America for these scholarships.
The Weniger Fellows Student Scholarship Fund was created in 2013. And I'm going to make a reference to Dr. Bernard Taylor later, but it was under his administration, leadership of the Weniger Foundation, that the Student Scholarship Program was initiated. Since then, the annual honors awards have been granted jointly by the Weniger Society and each of the institutions to one of their students who has demonstrated excellence in spirituality, in academics, in civic service, and in leadership.
Richard Osborne has coordinated this program for us for the last several years, and I want to thank him so much for making it happen again. Thank you, Dick.
Yes, indeed. And we will go to the screen now, and you can watch as Bonnie and I introduce these students who are recipients of the Fellowship Award. Our first scholarship goes to Claire Affigue at Adventist Health University in Florida. Claire is a student in the Associate Science Diagnostic Medical Sonographic program. She is a passionate and positive student who consistently demonstrates a strong work ethic, genuine heart for God's mission in her life, and a commitment to learning.
Our second student is Sean Rogers at Andrews University. Sean is a J.N. Andrews honor student who has demonstrated academic excellence, a strong work ethic, and a gift for guiding students as a laboratory teaching assistant. He has participated in mission trips and other campus spiritual opportunities.
And now I get to introduce Adele Van Dunkler, Berman University. Adele is a sophomore psychology major. She is a member of the Berman University Singers and also chamber singers. She's active in her local church and is regularly involved in service activities on and off campus.
Zoe Hewitt, Kettering College. Zoe is a junior sonography major from Tennessee. She is a student ambassador and works in the admissions office. She is respected for living the school's mission daily. And
next is Luisa Rodriguez at La Sierra. And I think you're here, Luisa. If you are, please stand so we can all recognize you. There she is. Let me tell you about Luisa. She graduated cum laude with a BA in psychology and is currently pursuing a master's in counseling with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. She has published a research paper and presented 2 posters at the Western Psychological Association Conference. She's also an excellent athlete. As captain of the LSU women's basketball team, she led her team to 4 playoff appearances and a championship game. She now serves as a graduate assistant coach.
Julia Cole from Loma Linda University is also here tonight. Julia?
Here she is.
Yeah. Julia is a third-year PhD student in psychology with a 4.0 grade point average. Her facility with statistical methods has landed her a position as a teaching assistant for 3 different statistic courses. She is active at her local church where she sings in the choir and is a volunteer nursery leader. She's also the PhD program student representative to the faculty.
Kyle Van Hook is from Pacific Union College. He serves as the religious vice president of the PUC Student Association. He is passionate about living and sharing his faith, faithful in his academics, and is considered a visionary by his teachers.
Jaden Engermoss, Southern Adventist University. Jaden is a senior theology major who plans to continue his studies next year at Andrews University Seminary. He expresses his gratitude to the donors of this scholarship for the support of his education.
And Mary Chifwepa, Southwestern Adventist University. Her family comes from Zimbabwe.
Zambia.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Zambia. We just moved you and you didn't know it. She's a biology major, pre-med, and prays to be used by her Lord in whatever way he desires.
Nyanbe Puck is from Union Adventist University. Nyanbe's life is marked by strong moral purpose, intellectual curiosity, and a genuine dedication to helping others. He is known for motivating his peers to strive for growth, understanding, and positive change in every aspect of life.
Gabriel Torres is from Walla Walla University. Gabriel is a student pastor at Walla Walla who is pursuing a degree in theology. He feels deeply called to inspire young people to experience God's love in a real way, and he's incredibly grateful for this scholarship that will help him follow his calling.
Zachary Lowe, Washington Adventist University. Zachary is a senior business major who has been actively involved in student government throughout his 4 years at WAU. Currently, he is the president of the Student Association. He is also a member of the National Leadership Society, Omicron Delta Kappa. He says he has learned that when we help somebody as we travel along, that our living is not in vain.
On behalf of the Weniger Society, I want to declare that this list of students whom you've met this afternoon do us proud, right? And we are so grateful to each of the universities and the colleges in North America for having invested their research to recommend to us these particular students. As I expressed along the way, we provide $750 each student from the funds that you folks donate to the Weniger Foundation, and each of the colleges and universities matches that $750. So a student like the last one we just read here, who appreciates this scholarship, is saying thank you to you and to the Weniger Society for this contribution to the costs of their education. With that, I think, Bonnie, I want to invite deacons to come forward, and in your program is an envelope. If you're ready to put something in the envelope, that's certainly appropriate. If you're not ready to do that at this time, don't hesitate to take the envelope. It is addressed on the outside and prepared for your insertion of gift for the Weniger Fellows scholarships. So thank you very much, deacons, for being with us for this today. And all you need to do is take the envelope and put it in the plate as it comes by. And I want to add also, because it is a months, plural, long process, that Dick Osborne does to put this list of students together for us. So thank you, Dick, for what you have done to make this possible, and may these gifts that will be gathered here today contribute to the needs of future students.
Yes.
I want to say a big thank you to Chemo, who has ministered to us so marvelously for many years, and Chemo is a Weniger awardee, and we're so proud of you, and thank you. Our first award this evening, oh, you got something to say? Oh, I'll try not to get in your way.
Well, I was just going to mention that the very first Weniger Award in 1974 went to Alonzo Lafayette Baker. Tonight, we add 4 more names to the list of over 200 people who have received this award over the past 50 years. And one of the things I find really interesting about our group of awardees tonight, I think, is something that tells us about our church. None of these people were born in the U.S. We have people from South Africa, from India, from Jamaica, from Czechoslovakia. We have such an international church, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things about our church is the international nature of it, and we're so proud of our awardees. Thank you. So with that, I'll let you get started.
Well, this is the Weniger family. And Bonnie and I have snuggled up a little bit in preparation for this afternoon, but this is an unrehearsed program. And so all of you get to be participants with us. Our first award this afternoon goes to John Thomas, Dr. Thomas. And you will see him and hear from him shortly, but lovingly known by a lot of people I hear from, Johnny Thomas. Welcome, and we're so glad that you are with us. He's known for his inspiring leadership at the Zapara School of Business at La Sierra University. For over 30 years, he has led the way in building increased enrollment and a world-class building. He has inspired students with a spirit of entrepreneurship, sponsoring Enactus teams that have won 7 national and international championships and 2 World Cups. You can read about this as you read about him in your program. He has also founded Rent a Brain, a student-run consulting business serving faculty and students. He has shared his fundraising skills with the community also, helping Aspire Housing Corporation to build over 100 housing units for low-income Riverside residents. He also contributes to support SDA church building and business development projects in India. He brings energy and enthusiasm wherever he is. Welcome, Johnny. Here from Weniger Executive Committee, Dr. Thomas, introduced by Larry Garrity.
Thank you, Dr. Garrity, Bonnie and Dan, and members of the Weniger Society for this great honor. I accept it with great humility and gratitude. This recognition does not belong to me alone. It belongs to the many people who shaped my life. I stand here before you as a product of their faith, courage, sacrifice, and love. Allow me to honor some of them by sharing 3 brief stories that helped me find meaning in my life and may explain my lifelong commitment to Adventist education and service. My first story begins in the summer of 1958. At Gifford Memorial Hospital in Newsweed, a small town in a remote part of India. Poverty was widespread. Sanitation was poor. Medical resources were minimal. Life was fragile. In that hospital, a baby was struggling to survive. High fever had ravaged his tiny body for days. His cries grew weaker. His breathing labored. And his eyes searched desperately for hope. The fight to save him spread across the hospital because he was the child of a staff member. Many questioned whether that effort was worth it. But one physician, one brave physician, Dr. Elizabeth Hiscox, refused to give up. Dr. Hiscox arrived in Newsweed around 1938, a young physician trained at the College of Medical Evangelists, now Loma University School of Medicine. As the baby's fever raged, she ordered ice baths to control his temperature and administered aspirin, despite knowing its massive risks. Let the baby go, they pleaded. Besides, he's the second child. But she refused to give up. For her, every patient was a child of God. Every life mattered. She slept in the ward, watching over the baby for many nights. One morning, as the sun rose and the morning calls to prayer filled the air, the fever finally broke. That baby stands before you today, honored and grateful for the training, the faith, courage that sent me an angel in the form of Dr. Elizabeth Hiscox. Dr. Hiscox served the Newsweek community for 40 years before leaving in 1978. She had very little money. She used her life savings to build the children's wing at the hospital. As she drove away, thousands cried out in Telugu, "Amma, Amma, udalpettadu." Mother, mother, please don't leave us. As an economist, I often ask, why would someone leave comfort, security, family, and country to serve in a small town in a hospital in Newsweek, India? Economic theory assumes people are rational and self-interested. Yet my life is living proof that selfless people exist and that mission and service can be a greater calling. Dr. Hart reminds us that between 1900 and 1950, more than 100 hospitals and clinics were started around the world by Loma Linda trained physicians. What an extraordinary legacy of faith in action. My second story takes place decades later at La Sierra University. In the mid-1980s, that same baby began graduate studies at Loma Linda University Riverside campus, now La Sierra University. A few years later, I was asked to join the business school faculty, eager to invest in students the same way others invested in me. In the summer of 1994, President Larry Garrity invited me to visit Tom and Vi Zapara. We were celebrating the achievements of our Students in Free Enterprise team, also known as SIFE, also known as Enactus. When Tom learned about our students' successes, they did not simply congratulate them. They challenged them. Keep winning on the world stage. The Zapara School of Business students rose to the occasion. Today, La Sierra is the only university in the world to win 7 national championships and 2 World Cups in a competition that ran over 40 years, drew over 1,500 universities from 40 different countries. But this is a story not about winning or trophies. It's a story about a couple, Tom and Vi Zapara. Entrepreneurs who began with nothing, built a multi-million-dollar Zapara medical enterprise, and chose to invest in students and institutions. They believed Adventist students could compete at the highest level, and that faith and excellence are not opposites. My wife Kimberly and I were blessed to spend more than 30 years sharing joys and struggles with Tom and Vi as we navigated Adventist education with scarce resources. Throughout that journey, they inspired generations of students to dream boldly, work diligently, and serve faithfully. They motivated, funded, and challenged ordinary students to do extraordinary things, giving not only their resources, but confidence and time, and unwavering belief in what others could become. The Zapara School of Business at La Sierra University stands as a shining example of their generosity and ideals, a lifetime devoted to Adventist education and countless Adventist causes. Thank you, Tom and Vi, for teaching us that success is measured not by what we accumulate, but by what we give. And because they gave so much, generations will rise. My final story took place in the fall of 2003-2004, during a very difficult season in my life. My wife was fighting cancer. I had 2 young children. Financial resources were scarce. Lucrative job offers came from the capital markets. And my faith in Adventist education was beginning to weaken. That year, through a Zapara family grant, we took over 150 students to Camp Cedar Falls for a retreat built around the School of Business motto, create value, make a difference. Late Friday night, after a long program, I went back to the van to gather extra sleeping bags. The temperature had dropped into the low 30s. As I walked through the darkness, I noticed a lone figure in the distance standing in front of the lodge. As I approached, I called out more nervously than I'd like to admit, "Can I help you?" The figure replied in a strong, confident voice, "God put you in my path, sir." It was a student dressed in a loose white kaftan. Without another word, he helped me carry the sleeping bags. And when we finished, he looked at me and repeated, "God put you in my path, sir." Half jokingly and half uncertain, I said, "Well, God hadn't spoken to me yet, but meet me Monday morning at 11 o'clock. Monday morning, exactly at 11 a.m., he was standing outside my office. His name was Samuel Otiboadi. He came from Ghana with 8 students, 8 other friends, after a week of prayer led by Dr. Garrity. He dreamed about becoming an accountant and arrived with nothing but faith. His family went into debt to get him to last year, trusting that God would provide. I remember looking at him in disbelief, but moved by his courage, humbled by his conviction, and said, "If God put you in my path, Samuel, let's find a way." Samuel earned his MBA in accounting, passed his CPA exams, found employment, paid off his debts, and eventually returned to Ghana to serve the Adventist Church. Students like Samuel gave me the reasons to stay. I've been blessed to serve Loma University for nearly 40 years. Looking back now and connecting the dots, I see something greater at work. This, I believe, is the soft power of Adventist education, shaping lives not merely for success, but for service, linking one generation's faithfulness to the next generation's calling. In closing, I want to thank my parents who served the Newsweek community in India for nearly 70 years, for inspiring me and teaching me the true meaning of servant leadership and selfless service. I'm deeply grateful to my wife, Kimberly, for 36 years of love and friendship. And to my children, Natasha and Jonathan's wife, Christina, for choosing lives committed to service. And to my brother, Leslie, along with our extended family and friends, for walking with me in this improbable life journey. I also need to thank the faculty and staff of the Sabbath School of Business for carrying forward Tom and Vi's legacy, and the faculty and staff of La Sierra and Loma Linda University for forming graduates committed to life of service and purpose. God put Elizabeth Hiscox in my path. God put Tom and Vi Zapara in my path. God put Samuel Otibawadi in my path. And today, God put you in my path. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Johnny.
Where to begin with the story of E. Albert Reece? In Jamaica, West Indies, his country of origin, or with his academic achievements? He is the former executive vice president at the University of Maryland and dean of medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. In addition, he was elected vice chair and then chair of the U.S. Council of Deans of Association of American Medical Colleges. He's also been the chair of the Agnes Irwin School for Girls Board, the Baltimore Symphony Board, and the Nellie Berman Classical Music Institute. He's really good at board service. They love him here at Loma Linda University Health. Of course, one must also note his significant research achievements in the field of birth defects. He and his research laboratory group have identified and patented key molecular mechanistic intermediates. They developed the technique of embryo fetoscopy for prenatal diagnosis and eventually for curative fetal therapy. He was the first Seventh-day Adventist elected to the prestigious National Academy of Medicine, where he served as a visiting scholar in residence and led the Committee on the State of U.S. Biomedical Enterprise. With over 500 manuscripts, 12 books, 5 monographs, there is obviously much, much more that we could say. But mostly, what it leaves me wanting to say is thank you. Thank you for your research, for representing and serving the medical community with such distinction and letting us be in the shadow of your light. Presenting the award to Dr. Reece tonight is Richard Osborne.
Thank you, Dr. Osborne, for kindly introducing me and escorting me here. Thank you very much to you, Bonnie, and of course, Elder Matthews. Thank you very much. I really am delighted and humbled by this occasion and being selected as the 2026 Weniger awardee. Just a brief anecdote. My wife has accompanied me, and I need to let everyone know that I accept this jointly. My wife, we met in Cradle Roll, Sabbath School, and we have been together since. So it's a good scouting place to look around. And so this award and much of what I'll say, I give credit to my wife who has been with me for these many years. But I'm also most grateful to the distinguished members of the executive committee who have selected me for this special honor. So thank you very much. I'm most grateful. You know, I've had some fond memories of Loma Linda experiences, including, as Bonnie mentioned, serving on the Loma Linda board. But more recently, over a year ago, my wife and I celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary, and we decided to celebrate that anniversary by traveling with a group from Loma Linda University, and of course led by Pastor Randy Roberts, and of course his wife Anita. And it was a wonderful, wonderful Reformation tour across many countries in Europe. So that's one of those memorable Loma Linda experiences. And today, I'm delighted to add this special Weniger Award to my collection of memorable Loma Linda experiences. So thank you very much for making this possible. I'd like to transition to give some comments on my required presentation and briefly share with you comments regarding an area of my career that's really been part of my life over the years. This area that has become so important to me is the pursuit of health and disease reduction through research and discoveries. This focus on health, as you know, is fundamental. It's a bedrock position of Adventism in general, and Loma Linda University Health in particular. By way of context, as Bonnie read earlier, I was very fortunate to have served an extended tenure as Dean of Medicine at the University of Maryland. This position in itself really had a very large portfolio of being head of the entire research portfolio, the research programs, and all the clinical programs combined. It's important because it really set the stage for the type of engagements, the type of lifestyle, and what I will describe to you as my more recent activity. Well, at the time of my transition from the deanship after 16 years, I was privileged to have been afforded a year-long sabbatical at the National Academy of Medicine, where I served as a scholar in residence. During that time, I led a team of colleagues at the Academy to study how a biomedical research enterprise can shape the health of a nation. How? We studied the period from the post-World War II era to the start of the current decade. This year-long study culminated in a comprehensive National Academy of Medicine special publication that was entitled, quote, "The State of the U.S. Biomedical and Health Research, Strategies for Achieving a Healthier America," unquote. This publication addressed the strengths, the gaps, and the future direction of the research and health enterprise. And so today I wish to share with you some selected excerpts from our findings and our recommendations which we made for the nation. In this study, we traced the trajectory of American biomedical research over time and its impact on health. We studied how the federal investments that have been made shape scientific progress for nearly a century. Before going further, I'd like to acknowledge the important contributions that Loma Linda University has made to biomedical research. I think of the late Dr. Leonard Bailey, pediatric cardiac surgeon, who was the first to investigate the role and the application of xenotransplantation, resulting in the transplanting of a baboon heart into a baby Faye, well known internationally. Dr. Bailey pioneered the work and the way for xenotransplantation, which has become fairly commonplace now. At the time, it was revolutionary. Now, it is done not routinely, but quite commonly. I also want to recognize a very good friend of mine, the late Dr. Larry Longo, who was a leading biomedical researcher here at Loma Linda. His research was supported for decades by the National Institutes of Health. And just before his passing in the very late 80s, he told me that he had a renewal of one of his the NIH grants. So he remained active until his death. Well, over the past 80 years, we have seen a consistent truth, and that is when America invests in science and in the biomedical research in particular, morbidity and mortality decline. Please file that. I'm going to come back to it in a moment. Sustained federal funding has also resulted in the reduction of cancer incidence and cancer mortality for decades. Survivorship statistics show increase dramatically. In fact, many cancers such as breast cancer, melanoma, prostate cancer, thyroid cancer now have 5-year survival that exceed 90%. What is demonstrated by these data is that there has been a transformation of previously fatal illnesses into chronic and manageable conditions. In addition, as a result of the infusion of funds globally and nationally, there are very few success stories that are as dramatic as the advances in HIV care and outcomes. As you know, HIV infection was once a fatal disease, but now has become a chronic condition in many parts of the world, thanks to federal investments, research and discoveries of antiretroviral drugs, and coordinated national and global public health strategies. Now, another example to reflect on is cardiovascular diseases, in particular heart disease and stroke mortality. The mortality rate has plummeted over the second half of the 20th century, driven largely by findings from the Framingham Heart Study, as well as anti-cholesterol statin medications and antihypertensive medications, as well as improved clinical care. The message from these data is unmistakable. When we invest, health improves. When we underinvest, mortality and morbidity persist. Remember that line. In my own field, maternal fetal medicine, the maternal mortality has worsened over the last quarter of a century. At present, the U.S. maternal mortality rate is the highest among developed countries worldwide. For comparison, the total NIH funding for research related to maternal mortality has grown from about $200 million to about $300 million over the last 5 years. Now, in contrast, funding for HIV/AIDS research grew from $3 billion to over $4 billion within the same time frame. So once again, you can see the direct relationship between investment in research and health outcomes. Of course, the correlation between investment in research and great health outcomes is not static. There's a fluidity in the effort toward the healthier society, because as we seem to conquer one area, lifestyle and other influences tend to blunt the gains that are made. For example, heart disease and stroke mortality and morbidity, as I said earlier, have declined progressively. However, in recent years, this downward trend is changing. The downward trend is beginning to flatten, and in some populations have started to rise. Again, the question is why? Well, most recently we see an exponential rise in obesity and the resultant surge in type 2 diabetes, as well as other associated chronic diseases, which together blunt decades of cardiovascular gains. We also examined funding trends. The United States remains the largest investor in the world in biomedical research in absolute dollars. They have allocated about 3% of their gross domestic product in biomedical research. However, other countries are now accelerating their investments, and some countries are exceeding the US in terms of the percent GDP invested in biomedical research. So from our year-long study and analysis, our committee issued a series of recommendations and strategies for the nation in achieving a healthier society. I'd like to share with you briefly just some of the highlights of these recommendations. They're as follows. Number one, we recommended the establishment of a national biomedical research advisory body. This would be an independent body charged with developing a national strategic vision, and this would be responsive to emerging health threats. Now, I should mention parenthetically that there is precedent for such a national body. This body would review, or does review, and refresh the research focus with relevance to existing conditions, existing disease, and outcomes. Recommendation number two, we recommended a nationally coordinated funding enterprise. For example, instead of siloed funding streams, such as funding from the federal government, funding from industry, funding from venture capital, funding from philanthropy, we recommend that we should launch a shared funding consortium to address major health burdens. Number three, we recommended a focus on health equity so discoveries benefit all. We must ensure that biomedical discoveries are widely accessible in all areas and to all groups, identifying and eliminating as many barriers as possible. Number four, we recommended and encouraged greater coordination and collaboration between the sciences. The reason for this recommendation was the fact that modern health challenges, such as maternal mortality, obesity, severe neurologic diseases, mental health disorders, and others, are not simple conditions. These are complex diseases, complex conditions, and all require cross-disciplinary collaborations and investigation. Number five, we recommend sustaining the biomedical research talent. We must maintain the talent pool. This is our intellectual capital. So we concluded that the U.S. biomedical research and health enterprise is still the envy of the world. It has had a transformational impact on the health of the nation over the past 80 years. The proposed strategy that we recommended for a healthier society will require bold decisions and bold actions. We have the talent. We have the institutions. We have the scientific legacy. What we need now is the vision. We need the vision, we need the coordination, and we need the courage to act so that the health of the nation will reflect the full power of our innovation and our talent. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for your kindness.
Thank you, Dr. Reece. God bless you, brother. Nurses take care of everybody, not just patients. Nurses are the link between the patient and the medical system, talking with families, doctors, the care team. It requires communication skills as well as compassion. Helen Staples Evans, the Senior Vice President for Patient Care at Loma University Health, is known for her dedication to compassionate care, but also for her humbleness, knowing that there is always room for doing things better. She finds the strengths of those who works with her and helps them find opportunities to grow. She makes others feel worthwhile and leads with dignity. She is loyal to the nursing profession, protective of her clinical teams, and demonstrates a deep love and commitment to her faith. Presenting the Weniger Award to Dr. Helen Staples Evans is Weniger Executive Board Member Beverly Rigsby.
Wow, I am so honored to be here with you today with such an unexpected award, and just a real privilege to be here. And there are just so many people that I have thought about as I've reflected on my career, but there are certainly a number of key individuals that I should mention, and certainly above all, God and his leading. It is really God who brought me here. But my parents, Warren and Betty Staples, they were missionaries at Maluti Adventist Hospital in Lesotho. I was actually born there, right across the border. My dad was a very gentle man. He was known to do his rounds with not only his stethoscope, but also a toolbox or tools in his pocket, because everything was broken down, and so he would fix the equipment at the same time as he was checking on his patients. And we moved into Vicksburg, into South Africa, when I was 5, because it had become apparent to my dad that the medical work in South Africa couldn't continue without more funding. So he started Adventist Professional Services that was working really private practices, but they were funding students, other practices to start up, and the hospitals in those areas. And as I watched my parents as a young person and then as a teenager I came across these two quotes that I thought really emulated my father, and this is what I wanted to do as well. Two things. Could a greater miracle take place than us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? And that's Henry Thoreau. And then it was enhanced for me too, by my own eyes are not enough for me. I will see through those of others. And that, of course, is C.S. Lewis. So then, coming full circle, I graduated from the second Bachelor's of Nursing program from Cape Town University. And I was 21, and I was asked to go back to Maluti, which is where I started, Maluti Adventist Hospital. And I was invited to come and run the School of Nursing. Well, I was 21, I just graduated. I thought I could do anything. And so I went. I took over from Twyla Reimke. She was incredible. And she came back to Canada. And wow, it was difficult. I was barely ahead of my students. I studied till late every night, trying to keep this going. And it became apparent to me that I needed more education. And so I was accepted to the University of the Witwatersrand to work on my master's degree, and was slated to start in January of a particular year. Well, my replacement, who was coming from Australia, her visa didn't come through, and January came and went, and so I'd lost my spot. Well, she finally arrived in May, and I had an aunt and uncle here at La Sierra, Walter and Norma Mackett. They had communicated with my mother and said, why not have Helen apply here at Loma Linda and just see if she can come? So I did. I applied on the spur of the moment, And they invited a niece that they had met in person maybe 2 times. I hadn't seen them since I was 10. And they invited me to come and live with them. I could never, ever have done that without them. And I was accepted, came over here. My cousin Ted and Linda Mackett helped me get my first car because I needed to get from La Sierra to here. Influential people like Clarice Woodward at the School of Nursing, and I was the recipient of a number of much-needed scholarships. I met Helen King there, who facilitated my green card, Pat Foster, who introduced me to my husband, who became my husband, and then my friend, supporter, and then the absolute blessing of my children and my grandchildren. Jerry Winslow, Lynn Behrens, Randy Roberts, other Weniger Award winners that I have known. And Jerry Winslow was a mentor, friend, and my boss for a number of years. And in 1989, I was able to come to this presentation. I've been to many of them, but in 1989, my uncle, Russell Staples, was honored as well with the Weniger Award from Andrews University. So I just have had incredible leading in my life. And through these years, I have truly been blessed and certainly cannot name all of them by being able to work with the most extraordinary and the most talented team of folk across all disciplines, not just nursing. And all of them have that same focus of promoting and living out our purpose, the teaching and the healing ministry of Jesus Christ through healthcare, education, and research. I have seen so much since I've been here at Loma Linda. I've seen the building of the 700 and 800 towers, the current Children's Hospital towers, the acquisition of the Behavioral Medical Center, the Surgical Hospital, the Marietta campus, and then the building of the Troche Medical Campus. And I have also found during that period of time that leading through influence has really been pivotal for my career, to really be able to glimpse for a moment life through another's eyes. And truly throughout my career, but it became even more apparent to me during the COVID pandemic, I witnessed in a much more profound way such tremendous courage. The courage to act truly in the very worst of times, with a team that truly showed their best and always included coming back that very next day. I was reminded then, and since that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is that little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow, and the belief that something wonderful is about to happen. And that is truly what I witness every day. People come back, and they believe that something wonderful is about to happen. Each of the staff that I have been privileged to work alongside are geniuses at raising the bar for themselves, clearing it, and then setting it a notch higher. They have truly raised the bar for me and for everyone else whose lives they've touched. They inspire each other and me to dig deeper for the strength to do what feels hardest, what sometimes is the scariest. So this award is truly shared by all of the incredible individuals I have been gifted with in my life. And I see a number of them here today that have just had such a profound influence on me. I also have a group of ladies that on our communication chain are known as the Tiara Ladies, a group of ladies that pray together through thick and thin, that are with each other and can really support each other. And so today, this award truly is shared by all of these incredible people. Something wonderful is indeed happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Imagine if. That's the phrase Daniel Duda is known for at the Trans-European Division of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. It's the phrase that inspires his creative preaching. But it is also repeated in all kinds of conversations to engender a spirit of creativity and imagination in the culture of the division. Duda was elected president of the division in 2022 and re-elected in 2025 after many years of service as a theologian and educator. In the 1990s, he was academic dean at Zakovsky Theological Seminary in Russia. Then he returned to Newbold College, his alma mater, and became principal lecturer in biblical and systematic theology. Now, as president of the division, he remains invested in theological education, serving as transitional head of Newbold Center for Ministry and Mission. For his division-wide ministerial meetings, he insists that a woman preach on Sabbath. It's not a slot that he holds just for himself. He's totally committed to that kind of inclusiveness. His phrase, imagine if, captures his visionary leadership, his commitment to excellence. As one colleague noted, he is the very epitome of Charles Weniger. Presenting Dr. Duda with the Weniger Award this evening is Weniger Executive Committee member Gilbert Valentine.
Thank you. Thank you truly for this honor. To receive the Charles Eliot Weniger Award for Excellence, an award that was given to only 208 people in 51 years, is truly humbling. To hear and read the names of those who richly contributed to the Adventist community and the names we have long respected, it's a privilege and profound encouragement. So first of all, I would like to thank those who ever nominated me and the committee for choosing me. Over the years, there were other fellow Europeans who received this award, like Edward Heppenstall in 1982, Jan Paulsen in 2000, Niels Erik Andreasen in 2010, Halbert Blomstedt in 2011, Sigve Tonstad in 2017, and Andrea Laxton in 2020. But they were all active in North American Adventism and thus well known. So to give this honor to someone who did not work in America and had a very limited impact here, it's truly humbling. In this, I joined ranks with Helen Pearson and Mike Pearson and Rain de Bruinsma. You did not just hand me a medal. You offered a tremendous encouragement. You offered an affirmation that the work we do in Europe matters and that we have influence beyond European Adventism. Thank you for your recognition of my service as an educator, preacher, and a church administrator. Secondly, excellence is never a solo achievement. It's always a shared story. Standing before you this afternoon, I want to acknowledge that whatever I have ever achieved, it has never been solitary efforts. It was always shared journeys with inspiring local church members, with inquisitive students, with professional colleagues, and wise mentors. Therefore, I would like to thank people who shaped me, those who were patient with my blind spots, colleagues who helped me grow and made me work better, and teams which molded me into the person I am today. I remember the first local church pastor who saw potential in me, Teofil Nehuta, and invited me for a Bible study. I remember when the leaders sent me to a Lutheran seminary, a translator, Augustin Stefanec, who said, "The church one day will need educated pastors in communist Czechoslovakia." And he said, "You need to stay where you are, and you need to learn other languages. It's important for the ministry." And then Jiří Drénar, who was the leader of publishing department, who exhibited excellence more than anyone else, and who sadly just died last month. And then I was the second one in history in 1981 from Czechoslovakia to come to Newbold College. And people like Sakai Kubo, Steve Thompson, Peter Van Bemmelen, Kai Arasola, Mike and Helen Pearson, they had tremendous impact on me and show there is another way of experiencing Adventism than what I knew from behind the Iron Curtain. And then Mike became a colleague at Newbold many years later, together with Gunnar Pedersen and Lawrence Turner. I learned so much from all of them. And then my experience at Andrews University when I came in 1989, John Pauline, Steve Vitrano, Fernando Canale, George Knight, Dick Davidson. I would like to especially mention Malcolm Maxwell. At the GC session in Utrecht in 1985, he offered me a position of theology professor at PUC. He was the first who saw potential in me at the time when I did not see it. I thought it would not be appropriate for me to accept it, but as a result of that conversation, 3 years later, I ended up at Newbold College and was able to fine-tune my teaching gift and to have a division-wide impact beyond my home field in Czechoslovakian Union and Eurasia Division in Zaoksky, where I served in early 90s. Growing up behind the Iron Curtain, I could not complain about opportunities. For someone starting from a church of 40 members, I had amazing opportunities. As I mentioned, I was sent to Newbold College. I was originally sent by the leaders to a Lutheran seminary because the communists closed down the seminary in 1974. But I never had mentors. I never could watch somebody's hands and say, wow, so this is how you do things. And so I would especially like to mention the division president, Bertil Wiklander. His phone call in July 2005 when he said, "Daniel, I want you to be part of our division team," forever changed my life and gave me a unique chance to develop the gift of leadership that I did not know that I had when I was a local church pastor. And then I would like to mention Lower Cooper. I remember in 1995 when he came freshly appointed to the GC to attend the Union Executive Committee in Prague, and I translated for him. And I have always looked up to him. Now I have the honor to be a fellow awardee with him. I would also like to thank my fellow officers, Nenad and Robert and Ian, who is here, and the whole team at the Trans-European Division Office, our 11 unions and 3 attached fields for trust in me in electing me as a division president in 2022 and then again in 2025, though I am not even from the TD territory. Now, I suppose that after living in England for 28 years, I can truly say that TED is my division. But those 1,289 days, those past 42 months, have been an amazing opportunity to influence the direction of our church in Europe, and together with fellow union presidents, to shape the type of Adventism that is happening there. Growing behind the Iron Curtain, I could never imagine influencing the church beyond my local congregation or a conference maximum. If we are honoring anything tonight, we are honoring the excellence of community that shapes us all. I would not be the person I am today without all those shaping influences. And thirdly, I would like to thank my family, who continually live with unseen costs of leadership and service, the time, the travel, the interruptions, the mental never of quite of duty reality. My faithful wife of almost 43 years, Vera, who hates airplane travel, yet agreed to come for this occasion. And my two sons, Marek and Roman, whose constant prodding and challenging me definitely contributed positively to the excellence. Your love and support make it possible to do what I do with joy. And so I want you to know that when I receive this award, I receive it with gratitude, but I also see it as a renewed invitation to keep learning, to keep listening, to keep growing, to keep using whatever gifts God has given me for the good of others. So thank you again. Thank you deeply for this honor. May we all continue to do our work with integrity, with humility, with compassion, with hope, and with excellence. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the Weniger Award Committee for invitation to deliver the Clinton Emerson annual address. And with my Chinglish, I will try not to pronounce it Weniger, but Weniger. I have reflected prayerfully on the theme of excellence, and it's my sincere prayer that the next few minutes of my reflection will serve as an inspiration to this august audience for this occasion. I will never forget 21st of May 2025. And it's not because it was 1 week before my birthday, or because earlier that day I attended a pastor's meeting on Zoom for the Latvian conference. It was because afterwards, when I opened my emails, there was an email from Bonnie Dwyer, the president of Weniger Executive Committee, telling me that I was chosen as one of 2026 recipients of this prestigious award. And I could not believe my eyes reading that email. And my mind went back when I was a 6-year-old boy near southern border of former Czechoslovakia. In 1965, we still had a 6-day working week and school week. And as a son of a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, I would be missing school classes each Saturday. And on Monday morning, the teacher would call on me and say, "Duda, come in front of all the class." And she asked, "Where have you been on Saturday?" I said, "I was in church." And she said, "Church? Church is where old ladies go who are afraid to die." So while you have been praying in the church, we have been studying hard, let me test you on what we have learned on Saturday. And so I knew that every Sunday I had to visit my classmates and copy the notes from what they learned on Saturday, because I would be quizzed in front of the whole class on Monday morning. One day the teacher asked, "Children, who can recite a poem?" And being a sanguine, I raised my hand, and when she called on me, I stood up and started. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down on green pasture. He leads me to quiet waters. He restores my soul." And I recited Psalm 23. Now, she was horrified. She called my mother to come to school the next day and told her, "You have to explain your son that he cannot recite these religious things at school. And think through what you are doing to that little boy, because he will never achieve anything in his life." You see, I just wanted to show some excellence. And then I remember in September '89, still before the Velvet Revolution that overturned communist regime in my home country, when I arrived at Andrews Theological Seminary as the second one in history from that country to do my doctoral studies. I still vividly remember that wall in the seminary where the in-relief of Charles Eliot Weniger was with the names of those who have received this prestigious award. If someone told me in September '89 that one day I will receive the award, I would not have believed it. So let me say something about excellence. Emphasizing excellence is very good indeed. After all, we are called to imitate God by reflecting on arete, the Greek word, which means excellence, and is mentioned in Philippians 4:8. Scripture commends diligence, skill, and integrity. But the danger is that excellence can become treated as a goal rather than a fruit of grace. That excellence becomes a theological center instead of a tool. That excellence becomes a proof of worth instead of fruit of grace. And if that happens, excellence is misunderstood. Excellence becomes image management. It becomes about winning. It becomes perfectionism. But excellence, true excellence, is love made visible in the quality of our work. It's faithfulness in details that others may never notice. In doing ordinary things with unusual care, because we serve God who gave his best for us. And we serve him by serving others in an unselfish way, because people matter to God and God matters to us. So, the first thing I want you to remember is excellence is not perfection. Excellence is faithfulness with what we have been entrusted. Do you remember Matthew 25? When Jesus tells the story about a man who was leaving for a journey, entrusted his possessions to his 3 servants. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and the third one 1 talent. And then he went on his journey. And when the master returned back, there was a time for the servants to give an account of their lives. And the one who had got 5 talents brought another 5, and so altogether he had 10. And the one who received 2 talents brought back 2 more, and so he had 4 altogether. And the one who was given 1 talent did not invest it at all, and so he returned that 1 talent that he had been given. Now, do you remember the response that the master gave to the person who brought back 1 talent? You know, knowing how gracious Jesus was, remember when he said to Samaritan woman, "Go and call your husband"? And she says, I have no husband? Instead of saying to her, who do you think you are, lying to the second member of Trinity? He says, that's true, you have finished off 5 and you are working through your 6th. We will consider that as a truthful answer. What do you expect he's going to say to the one who brought back 1 talent? Isn't that amazing that you at least remember where you dug the hole? Isn't this sweet? You brought it back. Now, let me read you from, now we have the notion that if you read from the King James Version that it sounds pious and holy, but let me read from Living Bible what he said to that person. Wicked man, lazy slave. Since you knew I would demand your profit from you, you should have at least put my money to the bank so that I could have had some interest. And then he says, take the money from this man, because the person who uses well who is given shall be given more and will have abundance. But from the person who is unfaithful, even that little responsibility shall be taken away from him. Sometimes we create an impression in Christianity, the less initiative, the less effort, the more blessed we are, not in the thinking of Jesus. But the main point is this. Do you remember the response that the person who brought back 4 talents got? Now here it is in verse 21. Listen to this. And I should have put it on the slide, I just didn't think of that. This is what he said, Matthew 25, verse 21. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. And do you want to hear what he said to the one who brought back 10? Here it is in verse 23. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Did you notice something in those 2 messages of praise? They are identical. They are exactly the same. And we ask, how is it possible that Jesus gave the same words of praise to the servant who brought back 10 talents as to the servant who brought back just 4 talents? Why? Because God does not require that we be the best. He only requires that we do our best. He only requires to be faithful with what we have. Because for our God, excellence does not mean accomplishing as much as other Christians do. Excellence means accomplishing as much as you can accomplish with the talents that you have been given. Faithfulness for God does not mean being like other people. Faithfulness means being true to the person God created you to be. Excellence does not mean giving as much as other Christians give. Excellence means giving what you are able to give. Doing the job that God gifted you, that's excellence. Giving to God's work what you can do and afford to give, that's faithfulness. Filling the place of responsibility that you are able to fill, that's excellence in God's eyes. You see, excellence does not mean to be a monkey or a parrot of someone else. Excellence means being yourself. But because we Adventists, so that's the first thing I want you to remember, excellence does not mean perfection. Excellence means being faithful with what you have been entrusted with. But because for us Adventists who care about truth, obedience, and mission, we need to be aware that we are especially vulnerable to turning excellence into spiritual currency. There is a bargain that many sincere Christians make, often without verbalizing it aloud. If I improve enough, God will love me more. If I perform better, God will use me more. If I become impressive enough, God will be pleased with me. And when excellence becomes anxious, self-protective, when excellence is about reputation, comparing yourself with others, about performance, then excellence is turned into a poison of perfectionism. But the gospel says, God does not love you because you are excellent. God makes you a new creation because he loves you. You see, at the cosmic conflict, the core lie is always the same. God is a harsh taskmaster. His requirements are arbitrary. The salvation is earned, and that worth is proved by performance. The enemy doesn't mind if we preach high standards, as long as he can twist it into religious vocabulary, into legalism. But legalism is excellence in disguise. Because legalism does two things to you. It misrepresents God's character, as if the Father was impressed with our performance. And it ultimately crushes God's children through anxiety, comparison with others, shame, and burnout. And Satan can point his finger and say, you see, religion, God destroys people. So if you embrace that, God justifies the ungodly by grace, is replaced by God blesses the excellent. Excellence becomes a condition for belonging, for assurance, for usefulness. Excellence feeds anxiety, especially in younger people and sensitive characters. When spiritual life is turned into performance management, if people believe, try harder, be better, make sure you don't fail, it produces burnout, pretension, hypocrisy. And nothing kills community as much as pretending. Legalism turns sanctification into outward optics. Rather than becoming honest, repentant, healed, we try to impress others. Management replaces confession, lament, and growth. Tell me, when was the last time you heard a lament as a part of corporate worship in Adventism? We are not good at it. We are a triumphalistic movement that will go from strength to strength. But lament is a biblical way to respond to the reality that we live through. If excellence is framed as our decisive vindication of God, then it becomes a subtle version of we must be flawless to finish God's work. And that shifts the weight from Christ to us. We end up with sanctified meritocracy. Communities built around excellence often need normal people to explain why things are not working. In the body of Christ, there is a role for weak, for messy, for poor, for neurodivergent, for traumatized. Ordinary people cannot get marginalized in the body of Christ because he died for them too. I have seen church institutions where excellence justified micromanagement, spiritualized criticism, and produced harsh leadership, all because mission requires it. Every Sabbath reminds us of our limits, our need for rest, our creatureliness. But legalism contradicts the very gospel sign that Sabbath represents. That Sabbath, it's a pure grace. We are not saved by what we do, but by our output. Legalism produces what can be counted and measured, like baptismal numbers, branding, compliance, so that it looks like faithfulness. But God's kingdom grows through weakness, patience, and hiddenness. Because if you embrace legalism, either you are going to be proud of what you achieved. Remember the Pharisee of Luke 18? God, you must be so happy that I am your child. And Jesus said, he did not get it. It either produces pride when you are doing well, or despair when you are failing. I must have been born to produce fuel for the flames of hell. I just can't do it. But grace produces repentance and resilience. I can face the reality of my sin without hiding. I can grow without panic. I can serve with excellence without needing to be admired. And so, let me reframe excellence into the Adventist cosmic conflict framework. Excellence is a fruit of faithful love under grace. When I was a departmental director of the division, I had to have my trips approved by my line manager, the division president. Imagine that one day I would come into his office and say, you know, in Jeremiah 32, I read that God says to the prophet, buy a field that is in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, for the right of possession and redemption which is yours, buy it for yourself. And I would say, can you approve my trip to Israel? In those days, Israel was part of the TD. I believe in the inspired word of God. What looks like faithfulness, excellence, is foolishness and irresponsible use of inspired writing. Why? Because if you want to define excellence without the poison of legalism or fundamentalism, you need to define it as faithful love under grace. Not flawlessness, not achievement, not spiritual superiority, but as a response to what God has done. We don't obey to be loved, we obey because we are loved. Excellence is servanthood, not self-justification. What we do, we don't do to prove ourselves, we do in order to bless others. Faithfulness, excellence is truthful. I can admit my weakness. Real holiness can confess, can lament, can apologize, can ask for help. It's not performative. And so importantly, excellence is always communal. Excellence makes room for the least. It's never elitist. If our excellence excludes those who are struggling, it's not Christ's excellence. Because it's Sabbath-shaped, not driven. We work from rest, not for worth. As Sigve Tonstad would remind us, Sabbath is an invitation before it's a commandment. This is how God vindicates his character in the cosmic conflict, not by showcasing superhumans, but by revealing a community where grace produces goodness and truth produces compassionate tenderness. And that's true excellence. Because Spirit always produces love, joy, and peace, not religious panic that you are not good enough, fear, shame, comparison, or control. because excellence always makes it easier for people to come to light. Because where gospel is preached, people always move towards light. Excellence is not a ladder to God. Excellence is a fruit of abiding in God's grace. Because in the cosmic conflict, the most powerful witness is not an impressive church. It's a church where broken people can become whole, not by pressure, but by grace. Where obedience and excellence are not badge, but the fruit and the result of love. When I think of that 6-year-old little boy in 1965 in that communist school, the teachers thought that by harassing me, she will embarrass me, and she did. When you are 6 years old, you don't have capacity to deal with those things. But she also installed in me the value of excellence and the fact that the excellence does not make me a better person. So, Bonnie, imagine what would happen if God had a community of people who are serving with humility, integrity, and joy. Not pretending that we have arrived, but remembering that we need to keep becoming, to keep learning, keep apologizing quickly, keep confessing, keep listening well, and keep serving with a compassionate heart. Just imagine what would happen if God had a community like that. What kind of witness that would be worldwide. And so my wish and prayer is that we all pursue excellence that is human, humble, and mission-shaped. Excellence that aims to serve rather than to impress. God bless you all.
Thank you, Pastor, for giving us such a vivid description of the blessing of living the excellent life. Thank you. I want to also thank Kimo Smith for being with us again here at Weniger. And I know there are, yes, by earlier experiences, thousands of you online who have joined us and are a part of this Weniger family. And if you would like to participate in the young people support that we have described already, we invite you to see online how to reach us. And now I want to give us a little reminder of a dimension of our Weniger program that we have developed earlier. At each Weniger event, we seek to honor the laureates whom we have lost since our last time together. Just over 1 year ago, our dear Bernard Taylor went to his rest. Not only was Dr. Taylor a much-loved Weniger laureate, he was also our president for several years. And as I mentioned earlier, besides presiding, our presidents developed close association with other laureates, as Bonnie has. That was true with Bernard Taylor and his friends, laureates, doctors Brian Bull and Sigby Tonstad. And now for the Weniger-Taylor family, I know you are all together watching now. Please know our hearts, our prayers are with you. And dear Bernard, rest in peace. See you in the morning.
As we close tonight, I want to again invite you to the reception in the William Lovelace, another Weniger laureate, Fellowship Hall. And we'll have stories there from previous awardees and the organizations that they have gifted. And I'm going to ask our awardees for this year to make their way quickly over to the Fellowship Hall where you can greet them there, and there will be refreshments. Thank you so much for coming, and as I invite you to stand for our closing prayer. My prayer tonight comes from the message rendering of Philippians. So this is my prayer, that your love will flourish, and that you will not only love much, but well. Live a lover's life, circumspect and exemplary, a life Jesus will be proud of, bountiful in fruits from the soul, making Jesus Christ attractive to all, getting everyone involved in the glory and praise of God. Amen.